there are three teams that I think we didn't touch on that everyone would say need to curb salary, and that is Boston, Phoenix, and Denver, depending on what they're doing. And if you're there, it seems like regardless of what those teams do, there's only two teams that may, and you told me this, most deals moving forward are going to have to be 3-team trades or more, because it seems like to get a deal done, it's going to be easier if you have more partners to help facilitate said deals.
I don't know if it's most. I think the majority will still be 2, but I think there's already a statistical increase in multi-team trades. Like, I talked to Mitch Kupchak. What year was it? It was probably around the Dwight trade. So we're talking, whatever, like 13 or so, 2012.
12.
Somewhere around there. So we're talking about 13 years ago. I talked to Mitch Kupchak, and it was the Lakers. And I'm like, you might have been able to, or maybe it was the Trevor Ariza leaving and them getting Ron Artest. So it might have even been a couple years earlier, somewhere in that range. Meta World Peace, Ron Artest. So like, I was saying, you might have been able to generate that flexibility if you did it multi-team. He's like, yeah, but the moment you start going multi-team, you try to get cute. You have more people who say no, the deals get harder, and it's just more likely it's just going to blow up in your face. And while that's a conservative approach, it's conservative at the time. That was kind of the thinking for a lot of teams. You did multi-team when you had to, but it wasn't like, oh, let's just get another team involved. Now, because of the complexities, that's kind of like, you're going to move Jimmy Butler, you got to get other teams involved. You want to make a big deal with a lot of moving parts with apron teams, you have to have someone who can take on the salary. Not only that, teams like Charlotte, San Antonio in recent years, Detroit, potentially Brooklyn this year, are putting themselves in the position to be the recipients or the beneficiaries of those teams needing a third partner, so they can just they'll take on salary, but they get young players and draft compensation, draft picks to take on junk contracts.
Sure.
So it might be someone they take on and then cut or flip for someone else. That it's become more common because it's necessary. You look at Phoenix, like Phoenix is what it is. Like, they saw the new rules and decided to defy them. And will that work? So far, the answer is no. Doesn't mean it won't work this year. They could win the title 25-26 and shock the world. I don't think they will. We don't know what's going to happen. Any of the 30 teams could win.
But to offset those players, it would have to be a multi-team trade more than likely if they wanted to trade a Beal or a Durant.
Salary via trades. So
yeah,
it just gets harder and harder. So there might be situations where if they want to reduce salary, then if they make a trade taking in someone making 10 and maybe they're sending out 30, well, who's taking on the additional 20? So there's all kinds of different ways to go about it. I don't know that they're going to try to reduce salary. They may just stay as high as possible. Boston, I spoke to some people with the Celtics before the year who said that, like, if they win again, it's going to be up to the new owners, but it's going to be very hard not to go for a three-peat with the existing group. They didn't win. Tatum,
you have an extension
out for the whole year. So even before that, they were saying if they don't win, they're going to have to make difficult decisions because the tax rates double, the repeater tax doubles. The tax rates shift where the lower rates actually drop. For a team like New Orleans, which is never in the tax, it's less expensive to be in the tax for the first two brackets.
Mm-hmm.
Then by the third bracket, it makes up for the lower, and then it offsets, and very quickly it ramps up even higher. So the tax bill for teams like Boston, Phoenix, Cleveland, Denver, they all start to jump. Denver has been under the second apron. They've stayed under the second apron and will stay under the second apron. So it's really just a matter of how much they want to pay for a team that is with Jokic and Jamal Murray, if healthy, arguably a contender, but too thin to really be a dominant one. And so they have to make a decision. Can they get value for Michael Porter Jr. to replenish depth? Is there a different path? First of all, is Jokic willing to extend? That's a big question that no one's really talking about. Like, if the answer is yes, they'll extend him and he'll take money and he'll be under contract with the team for a long time. If he doesn't want to extend, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that he's leaving? And if he's leaving, Can they afford to let the best player in the league, debatable between Shea or whatever you want to argue, but like, let's say he's the best player in the league, theoretically. Do you just let him walk for nothing? So at some point, does Denver have to trade Jokic? I'm not saying if an aggregator says, oh, I heard Eric say that, it's crazy. No, I'm saying if he doesn't take the extension, which he probably will, then what? If he's not taking it, what does that mean? Why isn't he taking it? And then if he's not taking it, does that mean that he's not going to resign? He'll be unrestricted when the time comes. A lot of teams would put themselves in position to have cap room to get Nikola Jokic, even if they don't get it, to at least make a run at him, right? And he's around 30, but he's not at a point where you're like, oh, he's starting to fade. There's no sign that he's fading yet. You can probably get 5 years out of Jokic if you think he's right now. Look, obviously Tatum got hurt, guys get hurt, but there's no like. I knew that Paul George, watching him in LA with the Clippers, I knew that his value was decreasing in terms of production. You would get 25% of his games would be like, and that's a made up number, but 25%, you're like, this guy might be the best guy in the league. And 25%, you'd be like, this might be the worst guy in the league. Then the other 50% would be some mixed bag of in the middle where it's like, he'd show signs and then you'd be like, oh man, his legs are dead. And the Sixers invested like he was still that guy when he's not that guy. Jokic appears to still be that guy. So give him a max extension. He'll take it probably. But if he doesn't, what then? And, he may not want to. He may love Denver and want to be there his whole career, whether they're a top contender or not. Or maybe he's greedy for another opportunity to win a ring and wants to be somewhere else. I have no idea. We can only guess at this point. But Denver is in a limited position with that payroll that high.
You can go.
Go ahead. Well,
I was going to say. Go ahead. You finish what you were going to say, Eric.
Let me see when they're a repeater. Denver has been in the tax 22, 23, and 24. So they are now a repeat offender.
So with that being said, you kind of touched on it. Denver, Boston technically has two ways, but Denver, like Phoenix, you kind of have, it's kind of obvious what the player or players they would move to get under or to upgrade the team, because with Denver, like he said, it's Michael Porter Jr. because Dario Saric and Zeke Naji don't have any or even negative value towards them. So you would think that if they were trying, obviously you would love to move Zeke or Dario, but I don't think that's happening unless you're giving up Payne Watson.
I think Saric. That's how they say it on the broadcast.
Saric. Like I'm Sean Connery. Like Saric.
When I was listening to the Phoenix broadcast,
Saric.
I would he would say when he was with Phoenix, they would say Saric, and I'm like, that's how you say that?
I did not know that. Yeah, I thought it was like the other like Yugoslavians.
Well, maybe the guy in Phoenix was saying it wrong.
No, I like the Sean Connery sound to it, Saric.
I don't know. That's how I say it because that's what the guy in Phoenix used to say. There is a pronunciation guide. I probably should look
there. If you go to NBA.com, I think if you click on it.
I know where it is. I just don't.
Yeah, same
bandwidth to really read it.
I read somewhere.
Caster in terms of like doing the the live games, I wouldn't get all those right within the best of my ability, but like I just don't say their names enough in public to have to worry about it. But like Saric might sign overseas and then take a buyout. Like he'll opt in and then maybe take a buyout. So like they could get out of some of his money that way, but like they could eventually, like they could trade a young guy.
I've read Watson is one because he plays a similar role to Aaron Gordon. You're going to choose probably Brown over Watson.
It's a team that needs young, cheap talent.
Yeah,
and also Watson needs to be paid soon. So if Watson's expecting to be paid, what is he expecting to be paid, and can he get paid what he wants? And the answer might be a no in Denver based on their situation. And then Najee, it's a tough one, but they could always stretch his salary out, and that would take the money off. That's what Phoenix did with the dude that they got from the Blazers. I'll pull it up. He's in the G League, or he was in the G League this last season. Nasir Little.
Oh yeah, Nas Little. They did do that. Yeah.
So there are always ways to be creative and to make things happen if you're so motivated.
If you're motivated, when trying to dangle Watson as a sweetener to get off of a contract like Najee.
Only if you're not intending to pay Watson. If you think
Yeah, of
Watson
course.
is, because they just don't have enough talent. They're at a talent deficit. So trading away, whether you like Watson or not, he was a rotation and a playoff rotation player for them.
Yes.
They don't have enough playoff rotation guys. He's extension eligible this summer. If they're not going to pay him his value that he thinks it is this next summer, or they can extend him this summer or pay him next summer as a restricted free agent. If they think they'll win that battle, they also have to pay Christian Brown. And Christian Brown is probably looking at like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like he is
They need to keep him.
an impact starter in the playoffs, which is crazy. And God, congrats. I'm happy for him. So to be able to prove himself as a player, he helped them win that first year, but like it was sort of in spot moments. Now he's like part of the reason why they're successful. So
He could be Michael Porter Jr.'s replacement in terms of,
but maybe closer to 30 million is what he's just looking at this point, which whether he gets or not, maybe 25 if they can get him down to that number. Like you could say, well, we're paying Gordon. Gordon's getting 32 next year, so even the Gordon argument, he's making 23 this year, so even that doesn't hold up as much. So Najee is a stretchable player. If you get Saric on a buyout and maybe get $1 million off or something, and maybe stretch that number too, you start to hurt your future flexibility, but future flexibility might not matter. So if you're paying Jokic, Jamal, and you trade Porter and keep Gordon, pay Brown, and then decide on Watson, and obviously there's, Deron Holmes getting healthy might help.
Another trade chip though too.
Well, I mean, again, like they need the cheap talents. Holmes is $3.4 million next year, not even this year. So this year I'm saying 25-26. He's 3.2. Then he's 3.4. Then he's 5.5. So I wouldn't trade him.
But there's no draft assets, is what I'm saying. If like you were trying to move off a Porter Jr. contract, you're going to probably have to give up a young guy like Watson who you don't want to pay, or Deron Holmes. You get what I'm saying?
Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, maybe Strawther because his contract is coming up. Probably Watson. Get him to a team that is willing to pay him. If you're not, like you're trading Watson before Holmes, because Holmes' value is at a minimum because he didn't even play last year, and he hasn't proven that he's an NBA player yet, just because he's a rookie, right? Like a rookie has to prove on the court that they can impact. Doesn't matter where you were drafted.
And he's coming off an Achilles.
Right. So what is he? You don't want to trade him, number one, because he's cheap. Number two, he's long. And number three, his value is a bottom. Whereas Watson, maybe you can trade him off of the spikes that he had in the playoffs and get him to a team that likes the contractual position he's in. Where if you can get Peyton Watson at like 20 million a year, if you think that's what he's worth, and he wants 30, but you can get him to 20, or if he's wants 25 and you can get him to 15, like 17, like there's some number that maybe Denver's not willing to pay, that maybe some other team's willing to pay. Then you might be able to move Najee in that. You might be able to move Saric in that, or maybe there's some sort of combination with Porter Jr. So I'm not a very big believer in the fan brain desolation theory of like, oh, everything is over, we're screwed, it's terrible, everything's terrible, we're never going to be good. Things change very quickly, and you can, like the Doncic trade is certainly an example of that, or even Lakers with Westbrook, where they went from being a mess with Westbrook to going to the conference finals, which I think they benefited from a favorable draw in the playoffs. They were healthy at the right time, and they probably weren't quite at a Western Conference Finals level with the existing roster that they had, but at least their fate changed from being like garbage, not making the playoffs. Lakers are going to be terrible forever and waste the rest of LeBron's career. I'm going off of the exaggeration from a fan going through the pain of not liking where their team is. If your fans are in that position, there could be a quick turnaround, but it has to be executed definitely, carefully, and I don't even know who their GM is. Like, I think it's Ben Tenzer is like...
I think he was named officially. No, I think he was named officially with David Altman the other day.
Okay, so
Adelman, my apology, not Altman. Adelman.
Yeah, if Tenzer is officially that guy and that's his job, he has been there a long time. He's been their strategist for a long time. Doesn't matter, because my role in what I do is as a strategist, but I'm not the one making the decision. If I'm helping an agent, I might be helping them with strategy. If I'm talking to someone with a team or I'm writing a story, these are theoreticals. I'm mapping out pathways, but someone has to make the final decision. And if those were Calvin Booth and I know a lot of strategists who have been embarrassed by the executive decisions made, and it goes on their resume. So if you don't like what the Nuggets have done and you say that Ben Tenzer is responsible for them, it's on his resume because he was there, but he wasn't the decision maker. So I don't know him. I think I've met him before, but I don't know him well enough to even say. But that said, if he makes wise, calculated decisions and has some fortune, there's a pathway forward. But the most important thing right now is Jokic and getting him to extend. This year, he can add 3 years. He can opt out and add 3 years. He may not want to do that. He may want to get to next year and then add 4. But all that said, like, usually guys want to put on as much money as they can, as much as possible, as quickly as possible, especially when you're already at 10 years of service. 10 years of service being the most you can make. The most you can make is 35% of the cap at that point. There are ways to get above that. Like Steph is making, actually Jokic is making 35.7 because the cap didn't go up as high as we thought. So it's based on raises and such. But generally speaking, there's a limit to what he can get anyway. So the goal would usually be for someone like Jokic to add those 3 years. We're talking about a massive amount of money. He would probably get a player option. So he'd be going from 2 years to 4 guaranteed plus the 5th, which is his choice. So that 3 years. And if you're saying those 3 years start like in the, what's the max in, let me get the max. Get max for, let's see, 3 years from now at the top level, that would be about 72 million. Right. And that 1 year, 2 years. So it's 2 years from now. So I'm 1 year ahead. So it's 2 years from now.
$216 million though.
65.
Oh.
So it'd be 65. And then he could do that times 1.08, which is a raise of 8%. And then add another year. I can't really see what I'm doing with my mic in front of me. Times 2 minus that. So
from what
and this is pencil scratch number. Oops, hold on a second. Let me just
You're good.
What that figure is.
While you do that, though, I want to say Denver's situation isn't as desolate as fans want to seem. They have clearly players or ways to maneuver through the situation or just to roll it forward.